with their money is they spend $76 million per year on students with family incomes more than $80,000 a year back in '95. Today, that's $761 million. So what they do, the choices they make with their own money are running directly counter to the choices we're making in public schools today to press more and more of our low-income kids to college. Meanwhile, they're spending their dollars not on the low-income students, but on students who have lots of choices and could go elsewhere. But the second thing that you need to know is what they do, not just with their own money on student aid, but what they do around making sure students don't just enter but succeed also has a huge effect on whether students succeed and graduate or not. When you talk to colleges and universities about what appear to be horrifyingly low graduation rates, especially for African American and Latino students, and you ask them, what's that about? All of them say exactly the same thing. They say, well, what do you expect, right? They're not very well prepared. And if you looked at other institutions, you'd see roughly the same success rates. But it turns out that that's not true. We created a database that some of you may know, and I would have shown you here now, but we're out of time, that actually allows you to look at institutions that serve the same kinds of students and see whether they get the same kinds of success. And what you see very consistently is some institutions take in a set of students and actually work hard and get them to succeed, while another set of institutions takes the same set of students in, doesn't work hard, and the success rates are hugely different. It's a choice, in other words, that they make. It's not all about the students. And until we begin to bring sunshine to these numbers, public pressure to not just focus on access, but also on success, and also a kind of support structure in higher education. There's actually no place to turn if you need help improving your success rates, because we haven't yet built up a support structure. But if we begin to do those three things, public pressure, lots more sunshine, shift from access alone to access and success, and building a support structure to actually help them learn what works and what doesn't, we can begin, in other words, to head off what appears otherwise to be a horrible collision of worlds. Thank you.
Excellent.
Good morning. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. I look across this room and see so many folks who've helped our organization and many, many other organizations in the struggle that we've been engaged in for the last, I think, 20 years, making sure schools are reformed. The other opportunity I thank you for is to be on the panel with these two ladies. There's quite a mutual admiration society going on up here. I think Katie's data could wake us all up, regardless of how many hours we've spent on Bourbon Street. And it did. So thank you. I'm going to start with some help. I want to share something about one of the schools in the NCLR network. And we have a video that somebody will cue up, I think. The video is about Bell Multicultural High School.
Just round up what you are going to do by the time you come back on Tuesday.
The first statement in our mission statement is all students who graduate from our 6 through 12 early college campus will be prepared to succeed in college. And so we take that literally. And from there, we get everything that we do. So for example, in order for all of our students to succeed in college, we have to make sure that the curriculum that they get is rigorous. One way that we've done that is by requiring advanced placement classes for every student. So by the time they graduate, every student will have taken at least 3 advanced placements. In 11th and 12th grade, all students take advanced placement English. There is no regular English.
We lesson plan in a way that involves that we make sure that every day is rigorous and every day is relevant. Knowing that they're going to come into a classroom every day and they're going to be expected to think critically, they're going to be expected to have a strong work ethic. And in turn, we are going to make their education very relevant to their everyday lives. And I think that's what makes our students really achieve and meet the expectations.
all your classes are like, you know, they're real hardcore, you know, they challenge you a lot, so they can prepare you for college in the future.
My mother, she's really serious with my report card. Like if I have a C, she thinks as F, so yeah, I have to have A's and B's.
At the same time that we have high expectations, we realize that we have to provide support to our students. So that's why we have the parent involvement, we have counselors, we have programs that will help students to overcome any obstacle that they may face.
If students' grades tend to drop, you know, we sit in meetings and conferences to figure out what's going on with the student, how can we help the student, is it just one class? So as teachers, we also are gathered together to try and figure out how we can help a student so that they have a sound support system.
It's got to be us also who has to work with the kids, because 50% is their part to get them in track to get higher advanced education, but it's also us who wants them to be educated.
When students start doing bad, teachers immediately try to help them out. They go to them, they tell them that they stay after school every day and they could come, and if they need help, they're willing to help them.
You know, the teachers are always here after school to help you. They stay extra hours and just help you.
One way that we are very effective with having high expectations is being very transparent with the students. They know where they're headed, they know what we expect of them, that you will go to college, that you will be proud of who you are, and that you can do it every single day.
Look at that video, although it was short, and if you've ever visited Bell Multicultural High School, you know that it contains all of the hallmarks of education reform that we've been talking about these last couple of days and that we've been talking about across the nation for the last 10 years. They have a consistent focus and strong focus on curriculum and tying curriculum to good assessments. They have a very, very strong accountability ethic for everyone in the school, including students and parents. They have effective leadership. Maria Tuqueva, who you saw on there, has been a leader at that school for 27 years. They have very, very good parent engagement programs. Everybody feels welcome in that school. Parents walk in and out of the school like it's their school and they believe it's their school. And they have high expectations for all their students. They are an early college high school. NCLR is proud of the fact that we supported them with support of the Gates Foundation in their quest to become an early college high school. So all the markers are there about when we talk about education reform. What you didn't see is some other pieces of education reform that are just as important that don't come across as well in the video. Bell Multicultural High School is very much a community school. It actually started as a charter school 27 years ago, one of the first charter schools in Washington, D.C., but then decided to give up its charter and become a regular district school. It's in a neighborhood that John was telling me remembers gunfights in the neighborhood, people afraid to go there. And now it's in the middle of a vibrant part of the city where there's a metro, there's a Bed Bath & Beyond, there's a Target. What more could you want? What's interesting is when I talked to Maria and said, it must be wonderful to see all this economic development around you, she said, it is wonderful, but I'm afraid we're losing our community edge. Because the area is becoming so wonderful, it's becoming gentrified and my kids can't live in the neighborhood anymore. So they get on the subway and a bus and come to school every morning because they want to come here. What you also didn't see is the amount of advocacy that Maria and her teachers have undertaken on their own to make Bell what it is. Bell is a beautiful high school with a beautiful theater. It's a beautiful campus that opened about 4 years ago now. But that school was built not just with district funds, but with funds the community raised. Bell Multicultural High School has a 501c3 component that they kept when they gave up their charter. And that component has helped them raise money and has helped them advocate for the things that schools need that they don't get. So when they became an early college high school and we were able to help them provide tuition for their kids to go to college, we needed to have a transition plan. The District of Columbia did not provide public funds for kids to go to college. And so Maria and her teachers and her parents and all the community that supports her went to the City Council, went to the State Board of Education, and advocated and fought and got tuition for those kids to go to college. So those are the things you don't see that I think are very much tied to education reform. So Bell, in the common wisdom, would be a reform school. But when we think about education reform, I think we've developed a sort of group think in this country about what education reform is. And there are some things that Bell is not that one would think about when you think about education reform. As I said, it's not a charter school anymore. It's a large public high school in a large district, fairly large district. Bell has a strong union. The teachers you saw there who stay after school, who work with kids, who believe in kids, who put everything they have into being a teacher, are union members. They're very strong union members. Most teachers at Bell have been there a long, long time, actually. I can tell you that NCLR is a supplier of many of the Bell teachers who've left NCLR to go teach there. And they are teachers who are not necessarily young. They're not committed to stay there for 1 or 2 years. They've been there 10 years, 12 years, and they believe in the community. And that's a bit different from what you would see when you think about education reform and what we've called education reform lately. As I said, we've created somewhat of a group think about education reform. We have talked about silver bullets, and if we just put all these new teachers in place that come and they're excited and they're going to be here maybe just for a few years, but they're excited and they're young and they were at the top of their class, it's going to change everything. If we just make schools small, it's going to change everything. If we put in place leaders who come from outside of education, it's going to change everything. Well, there aren't silver bullets. Those of us who've worked in the fields know there aren't silver bullets. But we have, as I said, created that group think that there are silver bullets out there. I'm going to challenge you to think about something. And I say this, I believe, as a true education reformer, someone who has been in the reform efforts for some time. Education reform has been largely a white middle-class movement with very little voice for stakeholders in it. I say that with love. I say that with the strong belief that we can change that and that we need to change it, but it is what it is. You know, lately we've had some flaps in Washington about who the reformers are, whether the civil rights community is part of the education reform movement. And I think we're asking the wrong questions. The questions we're asking are about concepts that we've created. They're not about what's really happening in schools and what true education reform looks like. We have not included the community as we should within education reform. We have tended as education reformers to do unto people rather than to include them in their own reform. And so what we need is a new notion of equity and reform, and we need to find a way to bring the two together. As a field, I think we can do that. As a field, I think we have to do that. We need to find ways to engage community voice in education reform. I think Bell Multicultural High School is just one example of a school that's done that. There are schools across the country who have combined stakeholder voice with education reform and have done it very successfully, but we don't tend to talk about those places. We need to find a way to scale up reform so it's not just about a few sites, it's not just about a few projects, but it really is about all of our schools, and it really is about all of our teachers, and it really is about all of our schools. We need to examine equity and race and civil rights